Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming, and I want to welcome all of you today to today's Commission hearing on human rights and the rule of law in Cambodia. Any other members may be showing up, but this is a kind of a crazy day, so people will come and go, and that's just the way things work around here, I guess. But I want to thank the Commission, the Commission staff in particular, for their work in organizing today's hearing. And I would especially like to welcome our distinguished panel today, in particular our Cambodian visitors. We also owe a lot of gratitude to the distinguished Commission member, my colleague from Virginia, Congressman Jim Moran, and his staff for initiating today's hearing. This hearing came about because Mr. Moran asked us to do a hearing on this. So we're grateful for his interest and his commitment to human rights. I would like to state for the record that after the hearing, I will send a letter to our ambassador in Cambodia, Carol Rodley, to bring her attention to the important work that our Cambodian witnesses are doing and the issues that we need to follow up in our bilateral conversations with our partners in Cambodia. I know that Ambassador Rodley is in close contact with the entire cross-section of NGOs in Cambodia, and that she's a strong advocate for civil society and human rights. I'm looking forward to our continued collaboration with all of you who are here today when you return to Cambodia. And I know that our embassy will keep in contact with you as well as see how your work is progressing. I would also like to state for the record that the Cambodian embassy has released a statement regarding some of the issues that will be the subject of today's Commission hearing, which is available at the press table. And this statement will also be made part of the record. So you can pick it up there and it will be part of the permanent record. While Cambodia is an important strategic partner in the region, it has gotten comparatively little attention by the U.S. Congress. And the human rights situation has rarely been the subject matter of this Commission or of its precursor, the Congressional Human Rights Caucus. On those occasions, Congressional Human Rights deliberations largely focused on the aftermath of the killing fields and the Pol Pot terror regime, and the long overdue, rather tedious way in which the hybrid UN Cambodia and Khmer Rouge Tribunal, ECC,
an issue for discussion before the Human Rights Commission, but you particularly, Mr. Chairman, have done a tremendous lead in that regard. I see Alita Black here, who's a good friend and brought this issue to our attention. I also want to thank Hans and Elizabeth because they did great work. The United States has a long history with Cambodia. It's not one that we ought to be particularly proud of, particularly the virtual carpet bombing of some areas of Cambodia. It was horribly disruptive, and then when you think of the killing fields that was just horrendous lives lost, it's one hesitates to think about it because it was such a horrendous history. But progress has been made, and I think we should recognize that. We've talked with the State Department recently. They had been encouraged that things had started to get better, but we see some regression recently. And that, I think, is what makes this hearing particularly appropriate. We're not looking, the United States is not looking for anything from Cambodia, really. As my colleagues know, oftentimes we have hearings because we want to do something that gains the American interest. This is not about American interest. This is about human interests. Human rights, the ability of the Cambodian people to express themselves freely, to move freely, to organize freely, and certainly to engage in free and fair elections. And that's what we're concerned about. Cambodia has a very strong chance of reaching the kind of independent, stable democracy that in fact has largely been reached in Indonesia, that we're seeing in other countries in Southeast Asia. And I think ASEAN has recognized that Cambodia is kind of in the middle right now. Burma obviously is at the bottom, but Cambodia can be a country that we look to for leadership in that part of the world. But right now it is not free from human rights violations, from unequal justice, from severe government restrictions on freedom of speech. Human rights can best be safeguarded through the preservation of democracy. And while Cambodia holds some elements of democracy, true democracy has to be based on more than the number of elections it holds. There has to be true access to the electoral process without intimidation, without fear of reprisal, and with a media that is free to say what they want, regardless of whether the government agrees or not with their conclusions. And there ought to be a separation of power. There is no separation of power to speak of right now. The Cambodian government controls the judiciary system. It's the judiciary system that I personally am most concerned about, and I think we'll hear about. In many respects, the State Department feels that there is rampant corruption within the judiciary system, that it renders unequal justice, and that in fact some of the recent cases appear to be politically motivated. They're trumped up charges of defamation or whatever that would never hold water in courts where there was an independent and professional judiciary. Now, Cambodian authorities in some cases have been cooperating with U.S. law enforcement in capturing Americans that have been committing crimes, particularly sex crimes in Cambodia. They've been bringing them to justice in the United States. I asked, wouldn't it be more severe punishment to simply throw them into jail in Cambodia? That would be the case, except that it's just too easy to pay off a judge apparently in Cambodia, so we're better off prosecuting in the United States. We've read some notorious stories about HIV-infected Cambodians being moved, obviously against their will, although that may be more of a land rights issue, and the taking of land that becomes valuable because of development in the cities and so on is another issue. We won't get into that, but it's a serious one. Cambodia has been active in peacekeeping missions, particularly in Sudan, and I think they ought to be recognized and applauded for that. Clearing out landmines in southern Sudan is a heroic thing to be doing, and we appreciate the fact the Cambodian government has taken the initiative. Adam West, Mr. West, who works on Cambodia in the State Department is here, and he's informed us and been encouraging of that. The purpose of this hearing, of course, is to gain a better understanding of the problems Cambodia is facing, to bring attention to human rights abuses, to shed light on the government's repressive practices. As the chairman is well aware, that's why he put so much effort into human rights issues. He and his mentor, Joe Oakley, understand this is a global village that we are part of, and what happens in one part of the world should affect us all. And we here in the United States, well, we have been blessed with personal security and individual freedoms. We do have a moral responsibility, I think, to assist the Cambodian people to achieve the kind of life to which we all aspire. It's important to recognize that 3 out of the 4 witnesses today are native Cambodians, who are all concerned about the fate of their beloved country. They love their country, and that's why they are here. They are eager for the United States and the international community to show support and assistance for their struggle for a better life in Cambodia, and that's why the Tom Lantos Human Rights Caucus is so important. A few months ago, I had the honor of meeting a woman who I learned to admire for her honesty, fearlessness, and her